Hidden beneath the relentless glare of the Egyptian sun stands a structure that refuses to fit within history. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the so-called tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, rises not just as a monument of stone, but as a question carved into the earth itself. Mainstream archaeology calls it a royal burial site, a grand sepulchre for a god-king, but the evidence inside tells a different story. No hieroglyphs, no wall art, no ceremonial inscriptions, no mummy, not here, not in any pyramid across Egypt. The very thing a tomb was meant to protect is missing. Many argue it was simply looted clean, but looters cannot erase the ceremonial inscriptions and hieroglyphs carved deeply into the walls, texts that cover every other royal tomb in the Valley of the Kings. The emptiness of the Great Pyramid is a silence by design, not a loss by theft. What remains is geometry, and precision beyond comprehension. The base of the pyramid is level within 3/4 of an inch. Its sides face the cardinal directions with microscopic accuracy, a feat modern engineers still struggle to match. Each of its 2.3 million blocks, some weighing up to 40 tons, was fitted so tightly that not even a blade of metal can slide between them. This is not the chaos of ancient labour. This is the logic of engineering. If this were simply a tomb, it is an anomaly without equal. But if it was something else, something functional, harmonic, then its mystery begins to make sense. Because everything about the Great Pyramid seems designed not for ceremony, but for resonance. Its angles mirror the geometry of the planet itself. Its shafts align with the stars, and deep within its granite heart lies a chamber that hums at the same frequency as the earth. A silent pulse that once may have connected heaven, stone, and sky. Maybe the pyramid was never meant to honor the dead. Maybe it was meant to sustain the living world, a forgotten instrument built to keep the earth in balance. Every measurement of the Great Pyramid seems to whisper a secret, one that numbers alone can't explain. To most of us, it's a mountain of stone, but to those who've studied it closely, it's more like a machine, an artifact so mathematically and geologically refined that it behaves less like architecture and more like a coded message left in plain sight. The pyramid is aligned to true north with an error of only 3/60ths of a degree, a precision so fine that even with our modern tools, we can barely replicate it on a structure that massive. 13 acres of bedrock, levelled so perfectly that the entire base deviates less than 3/4 of an inch. Each side stretches over 755 feet, yet the variation between them is less than 2 inches. That's a 99.98% symmetry rate, impossible to achieve with the primitive tools Egyptologists claim were used: copper chisels, wooden sleds and ropes. And then there's the mystery of its shape. From the ground it appears to have 4 sides, but from the sky, or at sunset on the equinox, another truth reveals itself. Each face is slightly concave, divided down the centre by a subtle inward curve. The Great Pyramid doesn't have 4 sides, it has 8, a detail invisible for millennia until modern aerial photography revealed it in 1940. No other pyramid on Earth displays this feature. It serves no decorative purpose, no structural advantage. It exists purely as geometry, perhaps to channel light, energy, or resonance with unearthly precision. The materials tell their own story. Its outer shell, once covered in dazzling white limestone casing stones, reflected sunlight so brightly that ancient travellers called it the Gleaming Mountain. Each of those stones was polished smooth and fit so tightly that even a human hair could not pass between them. Those casing stones were later quarried off to build Cairo. But if they had remained, the pyramid would have shone like a mirror, visible from space. Its core stones, in contrast, were rougher, chosen for density, not beauty. Some weighed more than 40 tons, hauled from quarries miles away. How were they lifted, aligned and placed with laser-like accuracy? The logistics baffle modern engineers. Even with cranes, the tolerances would be extraordinary. And then there's the math, the language of the builders. Take the pyramid's height, 481 feet, and multiply it by 43,200. You get 3,138.685 miles, almost exactly the Earth's polar radius. Now take its base perimeter, multiply by the same 43,200, and you arrive at 24,734 miles, the Earth's circumference at the equator. The ratio is exact to within a fraction of a percent. Coincidence? Or a deliberate encoding of planetary dimensions? Knowledge we only confirmed in the modern age with satellites and orbital mechanics. But why the number 43,200? That number isn't random, it's the count of seconds in half a day. 43,200 seconds of daylight, 43,200 seconds of night. The builders were embedding celestial rhythm into stone, matching the pyramid to the turning of the planet and the pulse of the cosmos. Geometry as language, mathematics as memory. To the ancients, numbers were sacred. They didn't just measure, they resonated. A perfect ratio wasn't only about symmetry, it was a bridge between matter and meaning, and whoever designed the Great Pyramid spoke fluently in that universal tongue. Every angle, every proportion, every measurement mirrors constants that define not just Earth, but the nature of space and time itself. Its slope, 51 degrees 51 minutes, encodes the constant of pi, the relationship between a circle and its circumference. Its base-to-height ratio mirrors that of the northern hemisphere. Its mass is proportional to the weight of the Earth's crust. The speed of light, measured in meters per second, appears numerically mirrored in the coordinates of Giza's latitude, 29 degrees Rn. Coincidence stacked upon coincidence, or a deliberate statement about cosmic harmony. And so we face a paradox. A civilization supposedly without the wheel, the pulley, or iron tools built a structure that encodes knowledge of the planet's geometry, its rotation, even its relationship to the stars. Either our timeline is wrong, or our understanding of what ancient means is far too narrow. The pyramid's perfection challenges us to reconsider its builders. Were they truly Bronze Age masons carving limestone for a king, or inheritors of a far older science, one that measured the heartbeat of the world? Every line of its architecture suggests intent, not accident. It's not simply a tomb, nor even a temple. It's a resonance device, a mirror tuned to the frequency of the Earth, a structure that encodes motion, gravity, magnetism, and time, the very constants that hold our planet together. And if the Great Pyramid was designed to mirror the Earth, then maybe it was also meant to protect it. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, the silence feels unnatural. It isn't the quiet of emptiness, it's the stillness before sound, a density in the air, a pressure you can almost feel on your skin, as if the structure itself is listening. The deeper one descends, the more the materials change. The outer casing, once pure white Tura limestone, reflected sunlight like a mirror, sealing the pyramid from external charge. Beneath it lies a massive body of rougher limestone quarried locally, dense and unyielding, a foundation capable of absorbing immense vibration. But at its heart, where the king's and queen's chambers stand, lies something very different: rose granite. Not chosen for beauty, but for what it contains. Granite is not just stone, it's technology. Each block, brought from the Aswan quarries nearly 600 miles to the south, is filled with tiny crystals of quartz. Quartz has a rare property. When compressed, it generates an electric current. Modern engineers call this the piezoelectric effect. It's the same principle that powers quartz watches, pressure sensors, and sonar devices today. When pressure or sound moves through it, the crystal transforms mechanical vibration into electricity, and when electricity is applied, it vibrates in perfect rhythm. Now imagine hundreds of thousands of tons of this mineral, locked in a perfect geometric lattice, aligned to the cardinal directions of the planet itself. The Great Pyramid isn't just built from stone, it's built from a conductor of frequency, a resonant matrix. Every chamber, every passage, every shaft seems to serve a purpose beyond movement or ritual. Their angles and proportions form an acoustic architecture, tuned cavities designed to manipulate sound. When tones are generated within the pyramid, the frequencies don't echo, they sustain, they multiply. Even a human voice can trigger low rumbles that vibrate through the walls and floor. It's as though the structure was built to amplify vibration, to feed on it. Modern acoustic engineers who've tested the King's Chamber describe it as a harmonic box, daminim. When they play tones within it, the sound waves begin to interact, forming patterns known as standing waves, geometric shapes of vibration that appear to hang, motionless in the air. Laser tests show how these vibrations move through the granite itself, activating the quartz crystals embedded within. The stone begins to hum with energy, a small demonstration of what could happen on a planetary scale if the entire pyramid were activated. The frequency of the King's Chamber is not random. At 440 Hz, the F-sharp tone, it matches the frequency of the Earth's own resonance, the Schumann vibration. It is the same tone heard in Tibetan singing bowls, cathedral choirs, and ancient flutes unearthed from Sumerian tombs. Different cultures, different ages, yet the same key, as if all were remembering a universal song. Coincidence? Or evidence of an ancient science of resonance, one that sought harmony with the planet's electromagnetic field. If we follow this logic, the Great Pyramid begins to resemble a colossal tuning device. A Helmholtz resonator, where chambers of precise size and angle amplify specific tones. The Queen's Chamber and the Grand Gallery could have acted as frequency generators, channeling vibration upward into the granite core. The King's Chamber, rich in quartz, would then convert those vibrations into electrical potential. Each room, each shaft, like parts of a musical instrument designed to tune the Earth itself. Some researchers, like Christopher Dunn, have even suggested that this design once formed part of a global system, where vibration from underground water moving beneath Giza created a low-frequency hum that travelled upward into the structure. As the sound waves rose, the pyramid amplified them, turning mechanical energy into electrical charge. In essence, the Earth itself was the engine, the pyramid, the converter. A planetary battery built not by brute force, but by resonance. The evidence doesn't stop there. In recent decades, high-resolution scans of the King's Chamber have detected subtle electromagnetic anomalies. Weak but measurable energy spikes occurring at harmonic intervals. Infrared imaging has revealed temperature variations between adjacent stones, as though certain blocks retain or emit energy differently from others. Even the shafts leading from the chambers to the outside world appear to be more than ventilation tunnels. Their diameters correspond to acoustic waveguides, channels that could have directed sound or gas flow. When viewed through this lens, the Great Pyramid begins to blur the boundary between monument and machine. It becomes less a tomb and more an instrument, one designed to sustain, amplify, and perhaps even transmit the vibrational heartbeat of the Earth. A vast stone oscillator, bridging the frequencies of the ground and the sky. If the stones could sing, perhaps they once did. Imagine the pyramid alive with resonance. A deep hum rising from its base as underground waters moved beneath, the air in its corridors vibrating in harmonic rhythm, the quartz veins glowing faintly as energy pulsed through them. A silent orchestra of stone, powered not by fire or metal, but by the geometry of sound. To us it is mute, but maybe that's because we no longer know the song. The builders might have understood something we've forgotten, that frequency is not merely sound, but the language of creation itself. And in that language, the Great Pyramid is not a monument to the dead, but a living note in the symphony of the Earth. Far beneath the golden sands of Giza, the Great Pyramid anchors itself into the bedrock, not as a monument resting on the earth, but as if it were rooted in it. Deep within that limestone plateau lies a subterranean chamber, the lowest point of the structure, carved directly into the living stone. It's here, according to engineer and researcher Christopher Dunn, that the process began. A process not of worship, but of generation. Beneath the pyramid flows a vast underground river system, ancient aquifers winding through mineral-rich strata. As water moves through those narrow passages, it creates vibration, deep rhythmic sound waves, almost inaudible to human ears, but powerful enough to resonate with the very frequency of the Earth. Modern seismologists have detected similar phenomena. When groundwater flows through porous rock, it generates measurable electromagnetic fields. The builders seem to have known this and used it. Those vibrations would rise upward, through the pyramid's massive limestone base, into a structure built to capture and amplify them. Each layer of stone was a different density, a gradient of resonance. The outer limestone acted as an electrical insulator, the inner granite, rich in quartz, a perfect conductor. The entire structure was engineered like a tuning fork, a geological transformer converting sound into power. In the Queen's chamber, the process became chemical. 2 narrow shafts were carved through the solid core, one to the north, one to the south. When modern explorers sent robotic probes into them, they discovered unusual traces on the walls. Hydrochloric acid in one shaft, hydrated zinc chloride in the other. 2 substances that, when combined, release hydrogen gas, pure, volatile, and conductive. This wasn't coincidence. The builders were generating hydrogen inside the pyramid itself. Hydrogen, the lightest and most abundant element in the universe, is also the most efficient carrier of energy. It fuels stars. It powers the sun. And perhaps once it powered the Great Pyramid. The gas would have flowed from the Queen's chamber into the Grand Gallery, a long sloping tunnel of granite blocks cut with precision so exact that even modern laser surveys struggle to detect misalignment. Every joint, every groove, every corbel seems deliberate, designed to distribute vibration evenly along its length. It wasn't just a passageway, it was a waveguide. As the chamber filled with hydrogen, the sound from the subterranean aquifers below, the pulse of the earth, would have risen through it. That low-frequency vibration set the granite vibrating, compressing the quartz crystals within. This compression created electricity, a piezoelectric charge. The Grand Gallery would have become a resonant amplifier, a tunnel alive with sound, pressure, and ionized air. Within that high-energy environment, hydrogen atoms began to organize into coherent patterns, oscillating in perfect sympathy with the structure's resonance frequency, 440 Hz or F-sharp. The very note that scientists today have found echoes through the Earth's electromagnetic field and through the geometry of the King's chamber itself. Imagine it, hydrogen swirling upward like a living mist, sound waves throbbing through the stone, the air itself glowing faintly from ionization. No smoke, no flame, only resonance. The pyramid didn't burn fuel, it sang energy into existence. Above, the King's chamber completed the design. Its walls and ceiling are built of massive rose granite blocks, each one containing millions of piezoelectric crystals. Above it sit 5 relieving chambers, separated by horizontal beams, each tuned to slightly different harmonic frequencies. To an Egyptologist, these are structural supports, but to Dunn and others, they are something far more sophisticated, a harmonic filter, a tuning stack that stabilized the chamber's vibration, like the soundboard of an instrument. As the hydrogen-rich air rose from the Grand Gallery into the King's chamber, it would have encountered this perfect storm of pressure, sound, and geometry. The chamber itself functioned as a Helmholtz resonator, the same acoustic principle used in musical instruments and jet engines today. When the right frequencies were achieved, standing waves would form, concentrating energy at specific points. The very stones of the chamber would have vibrated in tune, their quartz crystals releasing bursts of electricity. At the summit of the pyramid, the final component may have once stood, a golden capstone, a missing piece lost to history. Gold, the ultimate conductor, would have drawn the charge upward, creating a potential difference between the pyramid and the ionosphere. The result? Not lightning, but something far more subtle, the wireless transmission of energy through the atmosphere. It's here that the parallel to Nikola Tesla becomes undeniable. At the turn of the 20th century, Tesla built his Wardenclyffe Tower, a 187-foot-high transmitter designed to send electricity wirelessly across the globe. Its base reached deep into an aquifer, its frame composed of copper and iron rods, precisely the same materials found in traces at Giza. Tesla claimed he could draw power directly from the Earth, amplify it, and transmit it through the sky. Free, unlimited energy for all. But his project was dismantled before completion, destroyed by the very interests that profited from controlling energy. Two technologies, separated by thousands of years, yet eerily similar in design, purpose, and suppression. Tesla sought to make the Earth hum again. The builders may have already done it. If Christopher Dunn's theory is correct, the Great Pyramid was not a temple or tomb, but a self-sustaining generator, one that drew power from the natural resonance of the planet, used hydrogen as its medium, and released that power into the atmosphere as radiant energy. It would have produced electricity without combustion, sound without pollution, energy without cost. Sound, pressure, stone, hydrogen, four elements woven into one ancient design, a symphony of science and nature, tuned not for conquest, but for balance. Maybe the Great Pyramid wasn't built to worship the gods. Maybe it was the technology of the gods, a forgotten bridge between the energy of the Earth and the fire of the stars. High above the Earth, far beyond the reach of any tower, temple, or aircraft, lies an invisible ocean of energy, a sea that hums quietly between our atmosphere and space. This is the ionosphere, a glowing veil of charged particles surrounding our planet, endlessly vibrating under the breath of the sun. It is more than just a barrier, it is Earth's armor, a living membrane that shields all life from the chaos of cosmic radiation and the fury of solar storms. Without it, every living cell would be stripped bare by the constant bombardment of charged particles from the sun. And yet, for all its fragility, it endures, sustained by the Earth's own electromagnetic heartbeat. That heartbeat is what scientists today call the Schumann resonance, a standing electromagnetic wave that resonates between the Earth's surface and the lower edge of the ionosphere. It vibrates at 7.83 Hz, the same frequency found in the human brain's alpha rhythm. Every flash of lightning anywhere on the planet contributes to this global hum, a planetary pulse that connects every living thing through an invisible field. It is the Earth's voice, and perhaps the pyramids once sang in harmony with it. What if the ancients knew what modern physics is only now beginning to rediscover? That energy flows not just through matter, but through geometry. That shapes, when aligned correctly, can resonate with the electromagnetic field of the Earth itself. The Great Pyramid of Giza appears to have been designed with this principle in mind. Its proportions, the slope, the base, the height, form ratios that mirror the curvature of the planet and the orbital dynamics of the Moon. Its materials, insulating limestone outside, conductive granite within, behave like a giant electrical capacitor, capable of storing and channeling charge. Every element of its architecture seems to respond to vibration and frequency, as if it were built not just to exist, but to interact. In 2018, physicists at the ITMO University in St. Petersburg ran electromagnetic simulations on the Great Pyramid, testing how it would react to radio waves. To their surprise, the results showed that under specific wavelengths, particularly those between 200 and 600 meters, the pyramid behaves like a resonant cavity, concentrating electromagnetic energy inside its chambers and beneath its base. It doesn't reflect energy randomly, it focuses it. In other words, the pyramid is an antenna, a stone antenna. Now imagine this wasn't unique to Egypt. What if there were dozens, even hundreds, of such antennas distributed around the planet? Across the Atlantic lies Teotihuacan, the city of the gods in central Mexico. Its pyramids, the sun, the moon, and the feathered serpent follow the same geometric ratios found at Giza. Their orientation matches astronomical alignments that mirror the precession of the equinoxes. In China, the pyramids of Xi'an, massive grass-covered structures kept hidden for decades, share those same angles, those same ratios. The ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the temples of Angkor, the terraced mountains of Peru, all stand on key magnetic nodes of the planet. Ancient builders, oceans apart, all constructing pyramidal or stepped forms that echo one another, as if following the same hidden blueprint. Could this be coincidence? Or could these monuments once have formed a global network, a planetary resonance grid designed to work with the Earth's natural electromagnetic field? Researchers studying telluric currents, the natural electrical flows beneath the Earth's crust, have discovered that they follow specific patterns, wrapping around the planet like veins. Many ancient structures, including pyramids, stone circles, and dolmens, sit directly atop these lines. The old myths called them dragon lines, ley lines, the serpent paths of the Earth. But to modern science, they represent zones of electromagnetic exchange, the very points where the planet's field is most active. If the Great Pyramid and its global counterparts were positioned along these lines, they might have acted as resonant nodes, stabilizing, amplifying, or even modulating the Schumann resonance itself. The idea sounds fantastical, yet even NASA acknowledges that energy flows between the ionosphere and Earth through global electromagnetic circuits. A system of pyramids connected through vibration could, in theory, strengthen that circuit, reinforcing the ionosphere's ability to shield the planet during times of intense solar activity. Look at Earth from space and the pattern emerges. Draw a line through Giza, Angkor, Easter Island, and the ancient sites of the Andes, and they form a near-perfect circle around the globe. A geodesic line, as though the builders knew the Earth's exact curvature and distributed their monuments along it, each node resonating, each structure amplifying, each temple singing its note in the symphony of the planet. This might explain why so many cultures worship the sky, not as a god, but as a living system, something that could be nurtured, balanced, and protected. Maybe the pyramid wasn't just a monument reaching upward in devotion. Maybe it was part of an ancient environmental technology, maintaining equilibrium between earth and sky. Ancient myths speak of this balance in poetic terms. In Egypt, the goddess Nut arched her body over the world, a personification of the heavens shielding humanity from chaos. In Sumer, the god Enlil was the keeper of the breath of the sky. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, bridged heaven and earth, moving between realms through sound and wind. Across cultures, the message is the same. The ancients believed the heavens could be maintained through human design and sacred architecture. When viewed through that lens, the pyramid ceases to be a tomb and becomes something far grander, a resonant interface between planet and cosmos, a machine of balance, perhaps once used to stabilize the ionosphere during cycles of solar instability. A planetary shield, not of metal or technology as we understand it, but of geometry, sound, and intention. If the builders truly knew how to tune the planet's frequency, then their knowledge was not superstition, it was science. A science older than history, encoded in stone. And if that science was lost, then what we call myth might simply be the memory of the last time humanity learned to keep the sky alive. Maybe the builders weren't just honouring the heavens. Maybe through resonance and design, they were maintaining them, guardians of an invisible field that still hums above us, the last echo of a forgotten technology that once kept Earth in perfect harmony with the stars. There are moments in the history of our planet when the sky itself became the enemy, when the heavens, once a source of warmth and light, turned into a weapon, and the Earth, our only home, had no defence left. Around 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, something struck the planet with unimaginable force. For generations, scientists believed it was an asteroid, a cosmic bullet that ended an era. But modern evidence tells a different story. The fingerprints of this event aren't found in a crater, but in the sky. Across Greenland and Antarctica, deep ice cores preserve a frozen memory of catastrophe, layers of ash and isotopes revealing a spike in radiocarbon and beryllium-10. Both are formed when intense solar radiation bombards the atmosphere. At the same time, geologists discovered sheets of vitrified rock, natural glass, in more than 120 locations worldwide. North America, the Middle East, the Sahara, even the high plateaus of Tibet. These weren't caused by volcanoes or meteors. They were created by heat, temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees, as if the very surface of the Earth had been flash melted. Something had happened to the Sun. Modern plasma physicists now describe a phenomenon called a solar proton event, when the Sun ejects a torrent of charged plasma so powerful it can punch through magnetic fields. It's rare, but it has happened before, and when it did, it turned the atmosphere into a storm of electricity. Lightning bolts the size of mountain ranges carved scars into the ground. Oceans boiled at their surface. The air itself burned. The magnetosphere, Earth's electromagnetic shield, collapsed under the assault. Without it, cosmic radiation flooded the planet, and within days the climate flipped. Ice sheets that had buried continents for tens of thousands of years began to melt. Not over centuries, but in weeks. Rivers swelled into oceans. Sea levels rose hundreds of feet. Species that had roamed the Earth for millennia, mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, vanished almost overnight. Entire ecosystems collapsed in a blink of geological time. For the people who survived, it must have seemed like the world itself had gone mad. This was the cataclysm remembered in every ancient tradition. The Ziyu Sudra of Sumer, the Utnapishtim of Babylon, the Noah of the Hebrews, the Deucalion of Greece, the Manu of India. All tell of the same sequence: fire in the sky, floods that swallowed the world, a reset. It wasn't allegory, it was memory. If the Great Pyramid truly resonated with the ionosphere, as modern experiments suggest, then it might once have been part of Earth's protective system, a stabilizer of the planet's electromagnetic field. But when that global resonance was disrupted by a solar plasma storm, even the mightiest structure would have been overwhelmed. Inside the pyramid, hydrogen generated by its internal chemical system could have ignited under the surge of energy. The resonant chambers, designed to amplify vibration, may have overloaded. Traces of sulfuric acid and scorch marks on the granite walls remain to this day, silent scars of an internal detonation. Cracks run through the king's chamber beams. Salt residue clings to the shafts as though water or gas once boiled violently through them. What if this was not decay, but the aftermath of the pyramid's final act? Its last attempt to shield the world. Imagine it. A vast stone power plant built to harmonize with the Earth's energy field, suddenly caught in the crossfire of a cosmic war. The builders may have used resonance to disperse solar radiation, turning the planet's electromagnetic energy into a global defense system. But the storm, what plasma physicists call a Carrington-class event, magnified 1,000-fold, was too powerful. The network failed. The Earth's frequencies fell out of balance, and civilization, whatever form it had taken before, was erased. When the skies cleared, the survivors emerged into a different world. The Ice Age was over. The coastlines were gone. The stars had shifted in the sky. What had once been a civilization of engineers and scientists became scattered tribes of wanderers. They remembered only fragments, towers that shone with light, temples that hummed like thunder, gods who held back the fire with voices of power. Over time, those memories became stories, myths of divine wrath and redemption. But behind the metaphors, the details remained strangely technical. A pillar of fire that reached the heavens, a boat that survived the waters of destruction, a shield of the gods that once guarded the sky. Could these be echoes of real technology, relics of a lost scientific understanding? What if the ancient gods were not celestial beings, but survivors of a civilization that had once known how to harness the very forces that destroyed it? Modern solar scientists warn that such an event could happen again, a massive coronal mass ejection, striking Earth directly, could knock out every power grid, satellite, and communication system within minutes. We have the technology to predict it, but not to stop it, and perhaps that's the true tragedy of the builders. They tried. Somewhere deep within the foundations of the Great Pyramid, perhaps traces of that system remain. Remnants of an age when humanity reached not for domination, but for balance. An age when knowledge of the Earth's resonance wasn't a myth, but a means of survival. The ancients didn't call it plasma or magnetism, they called it Ra, the sun's divine fire, a power that could create or destroy depending on harmony or imbalance. And maybe the pyramids, aligned so perfectly with the stars and the magnetic field, were not temples to worship that fire, but machines built to contain it. When the sun went to war, they fought back, not with weapons, but with sound, geometry, and light. But the storm was stronger. The resonance failed. The builders vanished. And in the silence that followed, humanity was reborn, under a quieter sky, carrying only the myths of gods who once protected the world from the wrath of the sun. Thousands of years after the pyramids fell silent, one man tried to make them speak again. His name was Nikola Tesla, a visionary physicist, engineer, and dreamer who claimed that the Earth itself could sing with energy. At the dawn of the 20th century, Tesla stood at the crossroads of science and something older, a memory of power that did not burn, did not pollute, and did not require wires. He believed that energy was not something to be generated, but something to be tuned into, that the planet was already alive with resonance. And if one could match that frequency, limitless energy could be drawn from the very ground beneath our feet. To prove it, Tesla built his most ambitious experiment, a colossal structure on Long Island known as Wardenclyffe Tower. At first glance, it looked like an early radio mast, a wooden lattice tower capped by a copper dome. But beneath it, hidden from view, was a system of iron pipes and copper rods driven deep into an aquifer, a layer of water-saturated stone remarkably similar to the geological foundation beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. Tesla claimed this network would use the conductive properties of groundwater to send electrical vibrations through the Earth itself, a planetary circuit. He wasn't interested in simply transmitting messages like Marconi or Edison. He wanted to transmit power, wirelessly, cleanly, to every corner of the world. His tower was designed to resonate with the Earth's Schumann frequency, the same global pulse that beats between the planet's surface and the ionosphere. Sound familiar? It should, because this is the very principle that the Great Pyramid, if Dunn's theory holds true, once harnessed. For a brief moment, Tesla succeeded. Using a smaller coil in Colorado Springs, he lit bulbs planted miles away in the ground. No wires, no fuel, only resonance. Observers described the night sky flashing with violet light as arcs of electricity rippled across the plains. He called it the art of transmitting electrical energy through the natural medium. In his notebooks, he wrote, "The Earth is like a conductor of limited dimensions. It may be made to vibrate electrically as a tuning fork." Tesla's tower was a modern echo of the ancient design, a vertical resonator built on water, composed of conductive and insulating materials, channeling the planet's energy into the sky. Sound familiar again? The parallels to Giza are uncanny. The Great Pyramid's limestone casing acted as an electrical insulator, just as Wardenclyffe's wooden shell insulated its copper frame. Its granite core, rich in quartz, conducted and amplified energy, like Tesla's copper coils. Both structures depended on resonance between Earth and atmosphere, and both were grounded through water. It was as if Tesla had rediscovered, rather than invented, the very principles of a lost science. But like the builders before him, Tesla's work was not destroyed by failure. It was silenced by fear. When financier John Pierpont Morgan realized that Tesla's goal was to create free power for all humanity, he withdrew every cent of funding. Morgan's empire, copper mines, telegraph lines, coal fields, railroads, was built on control. Electricity, in his world, was to be metered and sold, not shared. A world powered by resonance, where energy could be drawn freely from the earth, would have rendered his fortune meaningless. And so, the project stopped. Wardenclyffe Tower stood unfinished, its copper dome gleaming uselessly over the New York horizon. Local newspapers mocked it as Tesla's folly. By 1917, the tower was dynamited and sold for scrap. The dream of global wireless power was gone, buried as surely as the secrets of Giza. The parallels grow darker. Both the Great Pyramid and Tesla's tower were systems designed to channel energy from the earth to the sky. Both used water and resonance as their foundation. Both stood upon ancient aquifers, and both were erased by forces beyond the scientific, by politics, by profit, by fear. Maybe Tesla wasn't inventing something new. Maybe he was remembering, tapping into a memory buried deep within the human story, the same universal science that once linked temples, pyramids, and the stars. Tesla himself seemed aware of this echo. He once wrote, "In every corner of the world there are mysterious forces waiting for us to harness them. Nature gives them freely, but we must first learn to listen." He spoke not like an inventor, but like an archaeologist uncovering a technology too ancient, too sacred to be understood by his own time. When Tesla died in 1943, alone in a hotel room in New York City, his notes and inventions vanished overnight. Agents from the Office of Alien Property and the FBI seized his belongings. 80 trunks filled with blueprints, papers, and prototypes. When the documents were later returned to his family, 20 boxes were missing. To this day, no one knows where they went. The government claimed they contained nothing of importance. Yet Tesla's contemporaries, like physicist John G. Trump, reportedly reviewed his notes and admitted that his theories on resonance and wireless energy were too advanced for immediate application. Too advanced or too dangerous. History, it seems, had repeated itself. A man who tried to give the world free energy was silenced by those who profited from scarcity, just as perhaps an earlier civilization was silenced by the forces of nature or its own fear. Tesla's tower fell the same way the pyramid's power plant fell dormant. Two monuments to resonance, two dreams of harmony, both buried beneath time and greed. But the echoes remain. The world still vibrates at the same frequencies Tesla sought to tune into. The Schumann resonance still hums at 7, 83 Hertz. Lightning still dances across the ionosphere, carrying the same charge that may have once flowed through the stones of Giza. Perhaps the universe never stopped singing. Perhaps we simply forgot how to listen. And so, the question lingers. Was Nikola Tesla a man ahead of his time? Or the last student of a forgotten civilization that once knew how to harness the pulse of the planet itself? When Wardenclyffe Tower fell, humanity chose control over harmony. But somewhere between the ruins of Giza and the silence of Tesla's laboratory, the same frequency still hums, waiting for us to rediscover it. Something happened inside the Great Pyramid. Something violent, something final. When modern explorers first entered the King's Chamber, they didn't just find dust and silence. They found scars. Scars carved not by time, but by energy. Massive granite beams in the ceiling, each weighing over 70 tons, were cracked clean through, as if struck by an invisible hammer from within. The chamber's walls had shifted outward by nearly an inch, the kind of displacement that would require the pressure of an explosion. Above them, in the Grand Gallery, black scorch marks streak the ceiling like the fingerprints of fire, and in the narrow southern shaft, a layer of crystallized salt still clings to the stone, not from centuries of humidity, but from something that once boiled, vaporized, and condensed again. These are not the signs of decay, erosion, or earthquake. They are the signatures of a system that overloaded. If the Great Pyramid was truly a machine, a generator powered by hydrogen, tuned by resonance and amplified by the Earth's vibration, then one surge, one misalignment, could have turned the entire structure into a colossal pressure chamber. When the hydrogen ignited, it would have detonated inside the sealed cavities, turning the pyramid's acoustic heart into a thunderclap of energy. The entire structure, 2.5 million blocks of stone, became the fuse of its own destruction. But the pattern of damage suggests something more complex than a simple malfunction. The charring appears only in the upper chambers, the same regions that once concentrated sound and energy. Below, in the subterranean chamber, the walls remain untouched. It's as if the destruction came from above, not below. As if something external, cosmic, not chemical, had forced the system beyond its limit. Could the same solar event that ended the last ice age, the colossal plasma storm that melted glaciers and vitrified stone, have also destroyed the pyramid's power network? If the pyramid acted as part of a global grid, tuned to the Earth's resonance, then an external surge of charged particles from the sun could have overwhelmed every node. Imagine a world filled with resonant structures, temples, pyramids, towers, all humming in harmony with the ionosphere. Until one day, the sun unleashed a wave of energy powerful enough to make the sky itself ignite. Plasma physicists call it a Super Carrington event, a solar outburst thousands of times stronger than anything recorded in modern history. If such a storm struck the Earth today, it would destroy our power grids, satellites, and communications in seconds. To a civilization that had built its entire energy system upon resonance, it would have been annihilation. Inside the pyramid, the hydrogen would have become unstable, its oscillation rising to the threshold of ignition. A single discharge, even a spark of static from the atmosphere, could have triggered a chain reaction. The hydrogen ignited, creating a wave of intense pressure that reverberated through the granite chambers. Quartz crystals fractured. Electric fields surged. Stone literally screamed as it absorbed the shock. For a moment, the Great Pyramid, the greatest resonant instrument ever built, became a burning amplifier of destruction. The aftermath still whispers in its geometry. Salt crystallization, found not just in the southern shaft but throughout the internal corridors, suggests that water vaporized and recondensed in moments. As if the temperature inside had risen hundreds of degrees in an instant. The beams above the king's chamber are shattered but not displaced. a pattern consistent with internal detonation, not earthquake. Even microscopic analysis of the stone shows melting along the edges of cracks, a trace of extreme heat. To the ancient builders, this must have been catastrophic. If the pyramid was part of a planetary system, one designed to stabilize the Earth's energy field, its failure could have thrown the entire network out of balance. In the chaos that followed, the resonance between Earth and sky was broken. The protective frequencies that once harmonized with the ionosphere collapsed, and so began a new age of silence. Afterward, the builders vanished. The knowledge of resonance, geometry, and living energy, knowledge that had connected Earth to the stars, was lost. What remained were the husks of machines mistaken for temples. Centuries later, when new civilizations rose from the mud and sand, they stumbled upon the ruins of this ancient world. To them, the pyramids were sacred. The king's chamber became the throne of Osiris, the grand gallery a passage of ascension. The queen's chamber, once the crucible of hydrogen, was reborn as a spiritual womb of rebirth. The shafts that once carried sound waves and ionized gas were renamed star tunnels, pathways for the pharaoh's soul to join Orion and the imperishable stars. They saw holiness where the ancients had built harmonic science. The memory of function became the myth of faith. And that may explain why Egypt, more than any other civilization, became obsessed with death and resurrection, because their ancestors, the true builders, had already experienced the death of a world and the faint hope of its rebirth. Even now, fragments of that event remain imprinted in stone. Acoustic engineers note that the king's chamber still resonates at 440 Hz, as if echoing the final frequency it once carried. Geophysicists measuring electromagnetic fields around Giza detect anomalies, faint surges that seem to pulse in cycles, like a heartbeat that never fully stopped. Perhaps the pyramid still remembers, the aftershock of a machine that once harmonized with the planet's very breath. The Great Pyramid stands today as a monument to endurance, but also to loss. The loss of a science that once united physics and spirituality, sound and light, matter and energy. When the system fell, that unity was broken. Humanity survived but diminished, inheriting fragments of knowledge, echoes of geometry, and myths of gods who once wielded the power of the heavens. The day the power died was the day the memory of how to keep the earth in balance was forgotten. From that day forward, we built again, cities, temples, empires, but never quite remembered why. The stones of Giza still hum faintly under the desert wind, like a memory refusing to fade. And maybe, somewhere beneath the silence, the earth is still waiting for the song to begin again. When the storms passed and the waters fell back, the world that emerged was not the same. The old coastlines were gone, entire continents reshaped, ancient cities drowned beneath newborn seas. Forests lay buried under mud and salt, and scattered across the shattered planet were survivors, fragments of a civilization that no longer had a name, wandering through a world that no longer recognized them. They carried memories, but not in books or maps. In songs, in symbols, in stories whispered to their children by the flicker of firelight. They spoke of gods who walked among men, of temples that shone with radiant light, of towers that could speak to the heavens. They remembered a time when thunder obeyed their command, when the earth itself was alive with power, until the sky fell and the sea consumed everything. Over centuries, those memories hardened into myth. The survivors became the storytellers, and their science became religion. They told of creation and destruction, of cycles that began and ended with fire and flood. Their warnings became prayers, their knowledge became legend, and in time their descendants forgot that the gods they worshipped might once have been human, or something like it. Thousands of years later, as the waters of the Great Deluge receded, a new civilization began to rise from the floodplains of the Nile. Nomads settled near the river's fertile banks. The soil was rich, and in that soil they unearthed something older than themselves: colossal stones, fragments of walls, ruins aligned to the stars. They didn't build them, they found them. The Great Pyramid was already there, towering over the desert, scarred, stripped, yet unyielding. To those early settlers, it was the work of gods. To us, it is a fossil of impossible engineering. Its erosion patterns tell a story that history refuses to hear. Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University examined the weathering around the base of the Sphinx. Not smooth sand abrasion, but deep, rounded fissures carved by torrential rain. Rain that could not have fallen in the arid Sahara of the last 5,000 years. The evidence points to rainfall more than 12,000 years ago, when North Africa was still a lush savanna at the end of the Ice Age. This alone shifts the age of Giza, and with it, everything we thought we knew about civilization. And then there are the stars. The 3 pyramids of Giza mirror the pattern of Orion's belt, not as it appears in the sky today, but as it was in 10,500 BC, when the constellation Leo rose directly in the east, precisely where the Sphinx gazes. Astronomer Robert Bauval mapped this correlation, showing that the entire Giza complex functions as a celestial blueprint, frozen in stone. The Nile becomes the Milky Way, the pyramids, Orion's stars, a reflection of the heavens upon the earth, as above, so below. Coincidence? Or a deliberate marker, a date carved in geometry, pointing to an epoch when the builders still walked the earth? Mainstream archaeology dismisses this as symbolic, but even symbols come from memory, and these alignments, geological, astronomical, mathematical, are too precise, too intentional to be mere chance. The builders of the Great Pyramid were not Pharaoh's labourers. They were the heirs of a civilization erased by cataclysm, a world that mastered energy, geometry, and resonance long before recorded time. Their monuments were not mere tombs or temples. They were machines, devices that once tuned the planet's frequency, stabilizing the balance between Earth and sky. When that knowledge was lost, later cultures could only guess at its purpose. They filled the chambers with myths and the corridors with prayers, mistaking resonance for ritual. The Queen's Chamber, once the heart of hydrogen production, became a symbolic womb of rebirth. The Grand Gallery, once a resonant amplifier, became the Pharaoh's stairway to heaven. And the King's Chamber, a perfect acoustic capacitor, became the throne of the dead. Science became religion, resonance became worship. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took centuries, perhaps millennia, for the survivors of the cataclysm to reorganize, to remember fragments of the lost design. You can see it in the architecture that came after: the stepped ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the pyramids of Mesoamerica, the stone circles of Europe. Each one echoes the same geometry, the same alignment to solstices and stars, a fragmented attempt to recreate what had once been whole. The builder's memory lingered like a song half remembered, its rhythm echoing through cultures separated by oceans. Across the Pacific, the Polynesians spoke of Mu, a sunken homeland of gods who built with light. In the Andes, the Inca called their megalithic ruins the work of the Viracochas, beings of radiant skin who came from across the sea. In India, the Vedic texts describe Vimanas, flying machines powered by sound and mercury. Every myth, every tradition holds a fragment of the same truth, that once, long before history began, there was a civilization that understood how to speak to the universe through frequency and form. Even the symbols remain. The ancient Ankh of Egypt, often called the key of life, resembles a tuning fork. The Djed pillar, symbol of Osiris and stability, looks uncannily like a high-voltage insulator. Were these symbols metaphors for power, or remnants of a lost technology disguised as theology? To the later Egyptians, these relics represented eternity. To the builders, they might have been something far more literal, the instruments of a planetary energy system that once kept the Earth in balance. And so, as centuries turned to millennia, the memory of the builders faded from history, surviving only in stone and myth. But the stones remember. Every block of the Great Pyramid still hums faintly at its resonant frequency of 440 Hz, the same note that once connected it to the planet's electromagnetic pulse. Every angle, every alignment, every proportion still encodes mathematical constants of the earth and sky. It is as if the builders left us a message not in language, but in vibration. A code that can only be unlocked when humanity learns to listen again. Perhaps that's why these monuments still call to us, why we feel something when we stand before them. Not awe for the past, but recognition. A resonance between what we once were and what we might become again. The builder's memory is returning, not in myth, but in science, in the rediscovery of frequencies, magnetic harmonics, and plasma physics. The very forces that modern engineers now realize shaped both life and civilization. It's as though the past is whispering to the present. You've been here before. The song is not finished. Would ye chat? And maybe, when we finally understand what the pyramids truly are, not tombs, not temples, but instruments, we'll remember the forgotten language of energy that once bound the earth, the stars, and the human spirit into one. The Great Pyramid still stands, its edges weathered, its capstone long gone, yet it endures as if it remembers something the world has forgotten. It is not merely a monument to the past, it is a mirror for the future. For over 4,000 years, it has faced the same sky, the same storms, the same sun. If its builders once stabilized the ionosphere, shielding Earth from solar fury, then they possessed a science that was not born of conquest, but of harmony. A technology that worked with the planet, not against it. They understood something we have only begun to rediscover, that energy is not an enemy to be tamed, but a rhythm to be joined. They built not to dominate nature, but to align with it. Every stone of the pyramid, every line and proportion echoes that principle. It is resonance, the ancient language of equilibrium. The builders knew that every vibration matters, the hum of the earth, the pulse of the atmosphere, even the frequency of life itself. When that harmony is kept, the world flourishes. When it's broken, destruction follows, by fire, by flood, or by the silence of forgetting. Today, thousands of years later, we face the same sky that once burned their world. Solar flares ripple toward us, capable of crippling our satellites and power grids in seconds. The fragility of our civilization, built on electricity and signal, is a reflection of their own. We call ourselves advanced, yet we stand as vulnerable as the ancients who once looked up in fear as the heavens turned to fire. Perhaps that's why their message wasn't written on scrolls or stored in fragile libraries, but carved into the bones of the earth itself. Stone endures where paper burns. Geometry survives where empires fall. Maybe they knew that memory fades, that every age forgets, and that sooner or later humanity would once again need to be reminded of who we were and what we lost. The lesson of Giza is not about gods or pharaohs, it is about balance. The builders may have fallen, but their design remains, an eternal equation linking the earth, the sun, and the human spirit. Their language was geometry, their prayer was frequency, their faith was resonance, and maybe deep down, that's why the pyramid still calls to us. Why every civilization at some point turns its eyes back toward Giza and wonders, who built this and why? Because somewhere within us, we recognize the pattern. We've seen it before. In Tesla's dreams of wireless energy, in our search for clean power, in our longing to reconnect with the pulse of the Earth. He too tried to give humanity what the ancients once had: free, limitless energy drawn not from fire, but from harmony. And like them, his work was silenced. So we must ask ourselves, are we rediscovering the same knowledge Tesla once tried to give back to the world? Are we, after thousands of years, beginning to remember the resonance between earth and sky that our ancestors once mastered? Or will we once again allow it to vanish beneath the noise of greed and fear? The stones are waiting. The frequency is still there, the same heartbeat of the earth that hums beneath our feet. All that's missing is our ability to listen. Maybe that is the final message of the Great Pyramid, that power is not meant to be owned, but understood. That the true measure of civilization lies not in how much energy it can consume, but in how deeply it can live in balance with the forces that sustain it. And perhaps before the next cycle turns, we'll finally hear what they tried to tell us, that the real power of the ancients was never in ruling the world, but in keeping it alive. They did not build for kings, they built for the sky. Before you go, take a moment to reflect. Are we, in our own time, rediscovering the same knowledge that Tesla once tried to give back to the world? If these ideas resonate with you, if they make you question what we think we know about the past, then don't let the conversation end here. Share this story with those who still believe there is more to history than we've been told. Leave a comment with your own theory. What do you think the Great Pyramid was truly built for? And if you want to journey deeper into the forgotten chapters of our world, remember to like this video, subscribe, and stay with us here on Forgotten Worlds. Because the past is not gone, it's only waiting for us to remember.